And it's like Christmas Eve for an NFL football fan, man.
Yeah, 24 hours away from the NFL draft to see whose Christmas list is going to be fulfilled, or did Santa Claus disappoint you again?
Ding, 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 ding. You're on the clock. I can't wait. I can't wait, man. This should be a national holiday. I shouldn't have to go to work tomorrow. This crap.
I know. I was thinking about calling my boss and be like, hey, I can't come in tomorrow. And she'd be like, why? Well, the NFL draft is for the next 3 days, so I won't be in.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, I think that's good. I
It's
think that would
logical to
work.
me.
I think the Super Bowl should be on Saturday,
Yeah.
so you can have Sunday to recover, have a good time. I don't know. Just a thought, though. The draft is one of those things that I look forward to most in the sports calendar. Period. I really find it fascinating, and seeing those young men react and having their life changed. And a lot of those guys come from low income families or rough upbringings and stuff, and changing their life forever is really special, man. It's really cool.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I love seeing it. We've always, like, for the last couple of years, there's been a group of us guys that usually sit and we'll be online playing Madden football, because Madden does a live draft thing also, and we'd be talking about the draft, watching the draft at the same time, and whoever's like most, I think the two buddies of mine were Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and so I would have to wait like a minute after the draft was announced because theirs was delayed for a minute or 30 seconds or whatever. So I'm sitting there going, you guys just drafted. I can't tell you guys because you're going to have to wait, and I don't want to ruin your the whole draft experience for you guys. But, the draft is special. It's special for, us fans to see what's going to happen. It's also very, very special for the players that, like you said, come from nothing, or, mom has struggled for the last, 8-9 years to, do everything for their loved one. And it's special. It is. It's special. It's exciting, and 100% it should be a holiday. We shouldn't have to work.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm trying to look at all the brighter side of things, and the draft coming up, and I should be in a great mood. Man, it ain't all warm and fuzzy over here in Bengals land.
No.
Trey Hendrickson got me mad at All right, welcome to Running Through the Jungle. I am your host, Brandon Herriott, a.k.a. B-Dirt, with your host here, Tim Lyons. We have our host, Justin Lacey, should be popping in here shortly. He had to get his internet straight, do a little reset on that. But since we had you guys programmed, wanted to get as close to on time as we could. We thank you for joining us, as always. Hit that thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, send it on out to everybody. If you're listening out there, anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, so on and so forth, please share us and make sure you subscribe. We will be here every week and now going live on YouTube as well. So if you want to come over here and join Austin's art and a couple of the other fellas that have been coming on here and popping on, and we'll take some questions, look through your comments. We appreciate you very much. So thanks for rocking with us as always. So yeah, big pink elephant in the room, Trey Hendrickson. request either an extension, a trade, or a possible retirement? Tim,
Well,
what's your initial thoughts on this?
Well, Brandon, today was my day off. I was sitting here relaxing, chilling, minding my business, when a couple of guys were up to no good, started making trouble in my neighborhood. Here we go. Trey Hendrickson, day before draft, 24 hours before draft. You get this news push of Trey request trade. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I had some other language going on as well. I understand that Trey Hendrickson is a 3-time Pro Bowler, 3 times with the Cincinnati Bengals. He had 17.5 sacks last year. He unfortunately, he really wasn't in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation at all. It was, Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt, and what's his name from the Dallas Cowboys, pretty much the whole year long.
Parsons.
Michael Parsons, yes. So I'm confused. I'm like, as a Cincinnati Bengals fan, as a Running Through the Jungle co-host, like, I'm confused of what the hell is going on in Cincinnati. Like, in 2023, Trey Hendrickson did an extension. So we have him 2023, 2024, and 2025. He's set to make $14.8 million this year for 2024 and $15.8 in 2015 or 2025. I'm sorry. He says that he wants a long-term security. So my question is, does he want the bag or does he want the long-term security? And you and I've discussed backstage was, what does he consider as long-term? What is he considering long-term? He's 30 years old, well, 29, getting ready to be 30. So what is long-term? This is the NFL, just like you said. This is the NFL. You want a 6-year deal, which will put you to be 35, 36 years old. You ain't gonna hope, most right ends, defensive tackles, how good are they at 35, 36 years old? What is really considered a long-term deal? And I know some of us probably won't agree with me, but if you're going to play this game of, you're going to either, you want traded, a long-term deal, or maybe even, there's this rumor of a possible retirement. I'm sorry, but I come from the school of, I don't negotiate with terrorists. And that's how I feel that Trey Hendrickson is holding the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, we got him at a good deal, $14.8 million this year, $15.8 million next year. We got him at a good deal. He signed that extension last year. Did he not?
Hold on a second. That $16 million was the only thing that got extended on.
Mm-hmm.
But what you don't hear about that was there was also, with that extension, was an $8 million signing bonus. So they basically signed him for one more year for $24 million, the way I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they tried to do right by him, and he just negotiated that less than a year ago. Like, you're talking about 8-9 months ago,
right?
Which seems a little bit odd to me. I just don't know how we got here. I could see maybe if he had another really good year next year, that we could do that. But I mean, the guys had 13, 10, 8.5, and 17.5 with us, or something along those lines. I mean, he's good, but I mean, very good pass rusher, disruptive. I don't know that he's great. And also, I mean, if you wanted me to play devil's advocate, I could sit here and speculate on how his style of pass rush and his pass rush could have hurt the run, because he only had 43 tackles, 28 solo, 15 combined tackles. So he's averaging about 2.5 tackles a game outside of his sacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like I don't see the pass bats. I don't see some of those other things. The reason why he wasn't in that defensive player of the year conversation to me is because he doesn't do those other things. Right. I mean, I still think that TJ Watt should have won it. And if you look at all of his stats combined, they're deep everywhere. I don't think he's on that level, and that's the reason why I don't think he's been offered that money or that long-term deal. He's also 29. He's on contract through 31. What's a long-term deal look like to him? I mean, could you get another year maybe or two? But what did we see Von Miller do at age 33? Nothing. Get hurt.
Yeah.
Age 34. Didn't play hardly at all either one of those 2 years. So history says that this is a tough place to be. And, Tim, we talked about it off air. You look at the biggest dynasty in my era, our era probably would be the New England Patriots. How many times did the New England Patriots get off of somebody right before the end of their best years, right?
Right.
Where they might have one or two more good seasons and they're just like, hey, we're not willing to sign you for 3 or 4 or 5 years. Gotta let you walk. I think we're going to be in that situation. Don't do the wrong thing just because he's a really good player now. In my point of view, man, you signed the contract. Play the 2 years or don't play the 2 years. It is what it is. Justin, welcome. I'm glad you got that internet fixed. Welcome back.
I'm hoping.
And
I'm hoping.
You're hoping. I hear you. So
let me double check. Am I good? Can you guys hear me okay?
You're cutting out a little bit. It's like in and out.
All right. So it's not all the way fixed yet, but I'll do the very best I can. Any point in time, if you guys lose my connection with you guys, feel free to let me know. Just restart again, like I try to do. But I'll do the very best to kind of give my analysis on Trey Hendrickson. So my standpoint is I'm stunned that this is happening, but I'm not surprised that this is happening. I sound robotic.
You got a little CP3O going.
Yeah, I'll bear through it as best as I can. I'm hoping that it picks up as the show goes on. And actually, here's what I might do. I'm actually going to stop my camera and see if I can pay a little closer. Okay. All right. So here's my full-blown take.
There you go.
Better.
All right.
Good job.
So, like I said before, I'm stunned that this is happening right now, but I'm not surprised that this is happening. And the reason why I'm not surprised is, quite frankly, I thought Trey Hendrickson outperformed his contract last year and deserved an extension last season. And I know that he signed his he signed that extra extension that put him through the 2025 season. And the Bengals did a great move by doing that because you did not want to be in a situation like now. But I can't say that I didn't see this coming just because I felt like he outperformed his contract. He made 3 straight Pro Bowls. Now, was he the all-world defensive player that we put Mike and TJ Watt and Micah Parsons in that stratosphere? Aaron Donald, I'll still put him up there. No, we don't. But we're not asking him to be everything on the defensive side of the ball. We're asking him to do what he does really well, and that's rush the passer, get turnovers, be the closer that he was, and that's exactly what he did. And what he did was play great football at a high level for 3 years in a row. And it's unfortunate that we're in this situation right now with them. I don't blame the Bengals either, because they forced all to come in his at the point. So instead, they wanted to extend him early to get him on that bargain deal, and he was perfectly fine with it. And now he's getting worse and getting because the market is taking off of where he is. And I feel like he's doing a high contract. He deserves a contract. blame Purdue, I blame the Bengals. It's just an absolute stalemate right now. But I will say this. It really kind of does the Bengals a decent solid, because we were always talking about how are we going to move, what was this defensive line going to look like beyond Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard when their days are eventually numbered and they move on. Well, you got Myles Murphy, and that kind of explains why the Bengals drafted Myles Murphy a year in advance last year. He's going to progress. And you also got to think a little bit long term. Outside of Joseph, maybe Joseph Ossai develops, but maybe he doesn't. We don't know. But I think that this is a really good opportunity for the Bengals to probably get out in front of this and finally trade a player earlier than being too late, if you know what I mean. Like, take the old big Bill Belichick approach to where you can trade a guy earlier and instead of keeping him too long, and then now his value tanks. They did it with Richard Seymour back in the day. I think Trey Hendrickson is along that Richard Seymour category, that level of player during that New England Patriots era from the early 2000s that you mentioned. They traded him for first. Yeah, it's a great comp. They traded him for a first-round pick to Oakland. The Raiders gave it up, and then the Patriots had 2 first-round picks. And that's the things you got to start looking to do, you know. And again, you don't want to trade away guys that's been a core part of your engine for these last few years that we've been on runs. But at the end of the day, things come to an end. The magic carpet ride doesn't last all the time, and you got to look to retool and rebuild. And right now, Trey Hendrickson's forcing this action. It is interesting. I did read too it was on Twitter, or X if you want to call it. I forget the tweeter's name that actually put this post out there, but I did see that you can't negotiate another contract extension until at least 12 months after you sign. Well, it's only been 9 months. So he has some time. I think that Trey Hendrickson needs to wait it out after the season, and then let's settle up later. You know, it's just bad timing right now. But if the Bengals are smart and if they can plan ahead, they can probably move Trey and get, again, depending if the draft works out everything that they want to, they probably could move Trey for a high-end second-round pick or a low-end first-round pick, because Trey is just that talented. But that's all I'm going to say on that subject now, because I want to still hear you guys.
Well, yeah, I don't think the Bengals, you know, we've already seen leaks that they have zero intention of trading him this season. They're going for the chip this season,
Facts.
man. That's just the way it's going to be.
Right.
Come on in and ride, whether it's your last ride or one of many more to come. That's just the way it's going to be. But I think he is one of my favorite defensive players by far that we have on the team. He's one of my favorite players, period.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hate to take, kind of an old adage here from the Pittsburgh Steelers or Mike Tomlin, but we want volunteers, not hostages.
Yep.
And I truly believe that way, man. If you don't want to be here, don't. Like, we're going to build something special. I don't think that's going to stop. It wouldn't matter who gets in or who gets out or what happens. You know, and when we took Trey Hendrickson, we gave him more money than anybody else was willing to give him.
Exactly.
He never had double-digit sacks going into that. He averages 8.5 sacks right now for his career. 7 years, 59.5 sacks. Yes, he had one major 17.5 sack season.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know what he wants. And like you said, I didn't even know you couldn't negotiate for 12 months, but it doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But my transition here is, now I'll throw this over to you, Tim. Does this at all change what you're looking at over the next 24 hours for the NFL draft?
Well, you know, this whole T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson thing, you know, of course, this draft is probably one of the best drafts we have seen in a decade, is what I'm going to say. There's some good players out there that, you know, could make your team a dynasty team. And with us knowing what's coming next year, you know, with T, you know, everybody's saying that the Bengals are not speaking to T with this contract extension or contract deals, nothing. Now Trey with this. So yeah, as a Cincinnati Bengals, you have to be prepared for next year, or better yet, be prepared for this year and the years to come, because we always have free agency also. Free agency is something there. If Trey is so unhappy with the Cincinnati Bengals and the organization, because we know how the Bengals do things, we don't like to keep people that are older than 30 plus years old. It's a young man's game these days. That's what I'm going to say. It's a young man's game these days.
Well, and not trenches and not on multiple year deals.
Right. Because, you have those players, like you said, in the trenches that are getting beaten up on every single stinking down. So they're going to, you might have a 29-year-old, but his body's feeling older than that because he's getting beat on every single play. So we do have to consider, what's the future? I know we want Super Bowl right now, with T and with Trey, and the Bengals said they're not going to trade Trey. There's no way, but I'm still wondering about T Higgins. My whole thing is T Higgins right now, because I have a feeling T could be traded this coming either on Friday or on Thursday or on Friday. He could be traded. He could be. But yes, we do have to prepare ourselves. We want to have a successful franchise. We want to have a success. We have the top two, the top two quarterback in the NFL with Joe Burrow. That's all there is to it. We have to protect him. We have to give him his weapons. But we also have to have a defense that's not the 32nd in the NFL in run defense. So yes, we have to prepare for that. If we don't, we're stupid. It's just like we could literally, be like some of these franchises that are cutting key players or trading key players away and be like, oh, well, we'll figure it out in the end. Well, in the end, it's not doing you any good. Like for instance, we said something about the New England Patriots. After Tom Brady left New England, what happened to New England? Nothing. Look at the Buccaneers. When Tom Brady retired, it was like, where did everybody go? And I know I'm talking about the GOAT of one of the GOATs of quarterbacks. I know it's a big difference, but when you have those key players that you lose or you trade away or whatever, and you have no game plan in the end, where's it going to get you besides last in your division or in the stinking NFL? We have to be prepared, and I'm sure Duke Tobin and all of them are preparing. Okay, this is what Trey wants. This is what T wants. This is what could happen. This is what is going to happen if we don't do X, Y, and Z. But I don't think it is fair of Trey, if the reports are true, I don't think it's fair for Trey Hendrickson to hold the Bengals hostage of saying, I want traded, I want a long-term extension, or I'm going to retire. It's like, is this a business or is your feelings getting in the way? And what's happening, I know I'm a little bit long-winded on this topic, but what's happening behind closed doors, because we don't see that. We're not involved in the media or, like some of those guys on Locked On Bengals and all that. They're in the locker rooms and all this stuff. For me as a fan and as a Running Through the Jungle co-host, my question is, what's going on behind closed doors now?
Yeah, I'm sure more things will get leaked. But Austin's Art here, I want to get to his comment. It says, yeah, I don't think the Bengals should do any trades. At least that's what I'm hoping they don't do. Fair. I will say this. I don't think going into this year, I don't see those trades. I was a trade T guy until you start looking at what you can get for T because of this draft class. I don't think he was no longer a first round draft choice.
Yeah.
So if you're going to trade him for a second round pick, if you sign him and play him this year and then let him walk next year and he signs, you get a third round pick, a compensatory pick.
Yeah.
So you move back one round and hold on to him for a year. I don't know. I think that's a pretty fair way to look at it. Justin, I'll throw it over to you. What do you think as far as the draft strategy? Does this affect your draft strategy? What are your thoughts on that part of it?
Well, obviously, I got to let the draft play out how it plays, first and foremost. I don't think that it should affect them when it comes to pick 18, so to speak. I think that they should continue on with the plan that they have, whether that's trading up and getting somebody that starts to slide, whether if it's standing pat there, or even if they entertain trading back. I think that philosophy shouldn't change with them when it comes to the first round. But it's obviously something that you got to keep in the back of your mind and think about. Just because we're in we're in unprecedented territory, uncharted waters right now. And with that being said, you got to explore all different type of options that you have here. I like to think confidently that the Bengals front office know what they're doing in these situations, but we haven't really seen the proof in the pudding with this kind of stuff. We don't really go into these type of things. We've had players request trade demands in the past, but it wasn't very much, and there was no true volatility with those. But with these two, with Trey Hendrickson, with T. Higgins, it feels a little bit different. It feels much different than Jonah Williams last year. That was just upset because he's moving from the left side to the right side. You signed Orlando Brown, and maybe his feelings was hurt. T. Higgins, that's a whole different ball game. He's performed well. Obviously, there's questions about availability and whatnot, but he's performed well. He's outplayed his second round status. He deserves a new contract. But at the end of the day, we're in a golden age and we're doing with NFL agents to where they're trying to get the best bang for their buck for their clients. And I don't blame them. People think that it's David Mulligetta effect, and it probably is. But other players are understanding their value too. And so are the agents. Like, look, we can actually get more what our players are worth, what our clients are worth, more so than what these NFL teams think that they can only afford when they can afford a little bit more. And unfortunately, the Deshaun Watson contract, that fully guaranteed deal, really changed that. And that's where it's really kind of cultivating here. And the Bengals just got to be able to adjust and pivot. I know that they want cash flow, but sometimes you got to be okay with mortgaging a tad bit of the future to be able to go all in now, so that way you're not losing out the fact that you're losing draft capital and you losing your players and you losing games. You don't want to do any of that stuff. So it's a nuisance for this to happen right now, literally a day before the draft. But I still think that you got to stand strong. You got to still trust in your board, trusting your evaluations, trusting your homework, your staff, which is your front office staff, Steve Radicevich, Mike Potts, who just gave a press conference yesterday, because we got to get into some of those talks. And you just trust and believe that, you know what, we're still going to do the best possible decisions that helps us win games this season to win a championship. And that's where that's how you kind of have to live with it for now.
The narrative that the Bengals don't pay people. I mean, Carson Palmer was the highest paid player in the NFL. Fast forward to Joe Burrow's the highest paid player in the NFL. They've paid running backs well. They've paid wide receivers really well. But what they don't do, and Tim brought this up, they're not paying guys in the trenches in their 30s big bags. And yeah. I don't think that's bad business.
It's not.
Now, I have a question for you here. If T. Higgins played 16 games last year, do you think the deal's done now?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's a good question. I want to say yes, but I also think that the Bengals just drive another hard bargain that makes me feel like that the deal still wouldn't get done, because Jesse Bates played all 16 games last season and he didn't get paid.
Correct, but he also wanted more money than any other safety, and that's where I think, and they wanted the 3 years guaranteed money, and that's where the disconnect was.
Right.
I think that they would give that 2.5 years guaranteed money to T if T would have played 16, 17 games last year. But when you start playing 11 or 12 and darn near have mirrored numbers to Tanner Hudson, It's hard I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out here and plays and has a great year and plays 16 games or whatever, that the Bengals offer him a $26 million a year, 4-year deal. But I think he needs to do that. Now, I would also not be surprised if at that point he's bitter, turns it down, and takes 98 from someone else. But that's kind of where I look at it. And with the draft strategy, getting back to that thing, my 2 cents on it is this. You have to get tackles, defensive tackles and offensive tackles. After you get that tackle need shore up, and I'm saying it's probably those first 3 picks. You got to get 2 of them have to be those. After that, the only thing I see it affecting is maybe if you have best player available and you're looking at your board and your 2 best players maybe are linebacker and edge, you probably go edge. Yeah. If it's, you might squeak them ahead of 2 or 3 places. If you got offensive guard and an edge rusher, 2 places down, probably squeak him up a couple spots. So that's the only thing. I wouldn't do anything drastic here. Knee-jerk reaction. I had us trying to get another edge rusher, that would be, not the first 2 rounds, but somebody that might be able to make a difference in the next year or 2. I don't know. That's the only thing I would change in it. Maybe tip that scale if you're on a tie. You know what I mean? That's all I got.
Or it can force the Bengals to evolve a little bit on the defense. Instead of always trying to crowd the line of scrimmage with all these edge rushers, why don't you really kind of look at the defense in totality and figure out ways how to generate pass rush from different ways? I hate that we're not even bringing linebacker into question because, yes, I understand we got Jermaine Pratt. I understand we got Logan Wilson. But one of my least favorite moves that we did in the offseason was only just sign Akeem Davis-Gaither and really didn't get a chance to re-up the position when you had the perfect opportunity with a guy like Devin White sitting there. I think that if a guy like Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky, if he's there at the 3rd round and you feel like that you've kind of stopgapped the number of spots in the 1st, 2nd, and then your 1st, 3rd round pick, and if he's there with your 2nd of the 3rd round pick, man, why not take a chance on him? Even if it is, you're probably feeling like that angst that, oh man, I would like to have another edge rusher just because of the situation with Trey Hendrickson. But even without this trade request, I think the Bengals would look to do that anyway, still go more edge than linebacker just because it just feels like that linebacker is the running backs of the defense. But you got to get talent where it flies, man. And at the end of the day, if a guy is sitting on your board, or not just your board, the big board, and he feels like that he's just added talent, even at a position that's of a lesser value, you can't be afraid to shoot for it. I think that's where I'm at with that one.
Not bad call out. Hey, we're going to take a quick break real quick. Hear from our sponsors over on Spotify and Apple Pod. So if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll just be sitting here chilling for just a few seconds and we will be right back. Please take this time to hit that like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend about Running Through the Jungle. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Cincinnati Bengals and NFL fans. Running Through the Jungle. We have the crew with us now, Tim Lyons, Justin Lacey, and me, Brandon Herriott. Going through the Trey Hendrickson reaction, we had a different show planned for you, but guess what? Trey ruined it. Tim did all this research for it and had to shred it. He put it over. He lit it on fire. Got a little warm going on in there in his office, so it's nice for him. But I want to get away from that. We'll get into something a little less dramatic. I want to go with more than anybody in this draft. It doesn't have to be your first rounder. It can be any round. Maybe somebody sneaky at the end, maybe somebody here or there. One person in this draft that you want the Bengals to take more than anybody Tim, I'm going to flip it over to you first. Who you got? Who and why?
Well, you guys all know that I think a lot of the Bengals fandom, Brock Bowers, if we can get our hands on Brock Bowers, but that's not my actual pick. My actual pick is, I know I'm a Golden Domer, is Audric Estime. I think we can get him in the 4th round. I think he'll be a great addition to the Bengals, just like we said last week. We have the Thunder, we have the Lightning. Now we need the Boom. I think Estime would add that. Yeah. Bowers.
Wait,
I would love Bowers. If Bowers dropped and he comes to us at 18, like I said before, I'm running to the podium. Like a man on fire. But Estime is that 4th rounder that we can't pass up if he's available, because we need that extra, that tough guy back there in the backfield on 3rd downs or getting those short yards. I know I'm a repeating record, but Estime would be a great addition. We need to toughen up our running back room. Even though I haven't seen Zach Moss really run yet, I have watched him, when we played the Colts. But other than that, we have the two that have the speed, but we need a tough guy back there. We need somebody that's gonna, dot somebody's eye if they decide to come up and sack Joe Burrow. We need that running back that's just gonna come in there and bully that defender. We need that. It's something that we've been missing, and I think it would be a great addition to running the damn ball.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I think we need a bigger bruiser, just because if it's 3rd and 1.5, it can't be an automatic pass. Right. Especially now we've got bookend Brown County tackles over 350 pounds, and then more than likely you're going to be drafting a high draft pick on a right tackle, and you're going to be able to put that person on jumbo over his tight end. Come on, man. You got to be able to get a yard and a half. Yeah. So I like that one. Definitely. And if you didn't watch the Know-It-Alls podcast, I actually did take him in the 4th round to make Tim happy. Actually, I think I took him with our 2nd, 3rd round pick.
Yeah, it was your second.
So he was very happy about that one. Justin, what's that one player you don't want to see us let get by, and why?
Obviously, there are a plethora of guys sporadically throughout the draft that I would like to see the Bengals grab or not let get past them. But I'm going to just stick to the 1st round. We're at pick 18. And I understand all the hype behind different type of prospects and everything. But the guy that I keep on mentioning day in and day out, and it feels like that the Bengals really need to go this direction, and that's Byron Murphy, man. That's the guy that I want at pick 18 at this point. I feel like that he is that game-changing defensive player on the D-line that's going to evolve what you used to do to being something different. The Ravens ain't going to be this run-it-up-gut team when you go against that D-line with Byron Murphy, Sheldon Rankins. Okay, the O-line, you got the Brown County, as you already mentioned. Well, then on the other side of the line, give me the Murphy bros. You got Miles Murphy and Byron Murphy. I think that's your future and your now. Okay, and I'm not even going to even talk about Trey Hendrickson, even though, let's say for the best case, he's still he's Byron's future on this D-line and the face of that D-line. You can consider your build around that from there, and all the other positions were just going to kind of work themselves out naturally. So with that being said, it just feels like that Byron Murphy or Johnny Newton, okay, because that's my raging debate right there. I'm happy with either one of those guys. But it just feels like to me that Byron Murphy has potential to be this unanimous all-world defense next in line like a Quentin Williams. We already saw with Aaron and Dominican Sue. That's a good comp for him. For me, is him. And he's just a freak athlete, man. He can do a lot of things. And I think that you can also sneakily line him up anywhere. If you want to rush him off the edge on certain snaps, go for it. And that's just a guy that I just feel like that can really elevate what you do on the D line in its totality. Him or Johnny Newton. But Byron Murphy is the guy that I've centered my focus on that I hope the Bengals get if he's there. Again, I understand Brock Bowers. I understand tackles. But I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I do not want the Bengals to go tackle round one. I really don't. I'm not trying to have them sit on the bench while Brown County is getting all the snaps. I get it. Trent Brown has injury history. But, dude, Trent Brown is a starter in this league, and he's here to prove that. And if you get a tackle, yes, I understand guard flexibility. Dude, then just get a guard, okay? The Bengals just need to evaluate better when it comes to the guard position. But one position that I know for certain that is going to create immense value and fill a need is defensive tackle. And that's what Byron Murphy is. And that's who I want.
Now, watch me get real hypocritical here with these two statements. One, I will say this. I do see Johnny Newton would be kind of that Detroit Lion-esque pick like they did last year, where you're starting to see Johnny Newton now fall past us into the end of the first round or early second round in most mock drafts right now. So people have him sliding back a little bit. I could see the Bengals taking him at 18 and saying, nope, that's our guy. And kind of like they did last year with both Gibbs and Campbell, where they could have probably got him later. And they said, nope, it's our guy. We're not taking a chance on this. This is who we're taking.
Hell yeah. I like that.
Now, that said, I also think that you can get defensive tackles in rounds 2, 3, and 4 in this draft that are nice sleepers. Mm-hmm. Nice sleepers. I like McKinley out of Texas A&M. I'm real big on my boy Chris Jenkins from Michigan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like Ruka Roro. I like him. I like some guys. Now, there are some other folks I like out there too. I'm going to give you, so Chris Jenkins would be my easy one. I'm going to give you my hard one, especially now that we have this going on with Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson has been comped to this guy. I would like to see if he falls maybe in that second. I mean, I don't think he'll make it to third. But Braden Fisk out of Florida State was at Western Michigan for the start of his career. His comp is pretty much Trey Hendrickson. I would like to see him. I like that. Now, if we don't go that route, if you listen to the Know-It-Alls podcast last Sunday, we did a draft special. Shout out to the guy Payday was on there. If you did listen to it, I'm sorry that we took up 3 hours of your Sunday evening and you missed your family dinner. We did not expect it to go that way, but I took a young man out of UConn, Eric Watts, 6'6", 274, ran a 4.6 40. Edge rusher. Now you look at Trey Hendrickson, 6'4", 270. You know, I have to look at his combine numbers, but I also think that that's a little bit of a late round pick that we might be able to get that edge replay. I don't think he's a replacement this year, but I think he could be effective down the year and add depth to that piece as well. So a couple guys I really like, but the one that I don't want to get away from, the one that I really want, is Chris Jenkins. I want the mutant. I think he's going to end up putting about another 20 pounds on that frame. I think he's going to end up playing over the end of the next year at 320. And that's a big, bad, strong dude. I like that dude. And I like getting him in the second round because, unlike you, I like taking a right tackle in the first round because I protect my investment. And the
And it's not like that.
Joe Burrow.
Look, it's not like that. I don't want the Bengals to make the best decision possible to protect their franchise, but let's just be honest here. The Bengals, all they did since they drafted Joe Burrow was protect them and just whether if it's with draft picks or signing free agents. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. And and if you're trying to chase perfection on the offensive line, you're going to be chasing for a very long time, and you're going to miss value in other places. I really do like the Chris Jenkins pick. Don't get me wrong. I think that the one mock that you did before, when you did it on your own, and you traded back, grabbed Johnny Newton, and then you got Chris Jenkins, I believe. Dude, I'll be thrilled with that. That will be an ideal back-to-back 1-2 punch of a draft pick, because you just did right then and there, your D-line is fixed. But I think that the Bengals have a chance to be offered something to be very special on the defensive line, and it can literally just be this one player by himself, and that is Byron Murphy. And again, the Bengals still got to do a little bit of work, okay? They still got to figure out what's going to happen at nose tackle because of the loss of DJ Reader and all this and that. But just the immense amount of value that I feel like that a guy like a Murphy or a Newton can bring to this Bengals D-line currently as constructed will make you really feel like that, yeah, dang, man, we really miss DJ Reader, but we've morphed this D-line to something even better, and we can wait a little bit, and we can get a guy later on down the road, So that's why I feel the way that I feel about it. But like I said, if the Bengals were to, now don't get me wrong, I ain't no dumbass now. I'm sorry to curse like that. But if the Bengals have Joe Alt, have an opportunity to get Joe Alt or Talisu Fawaga, or Olufasanu, then okay, I'm sold. Because those are the unquestioned top 3 guys on the board. But for a guy like I'm saying, I know everybody's talking about his upside, like a Marius Mims.
I think he's going to end up being the best one out of this group.
Joe might be. Joe Alt, I think, is going to be, top tier in after year 1 or something. But like a guy like a Marius Mims or even a JC Latham, I know that he's really touted in a lot of different mocks. I just feel like the Bengals are going to miss out on value somewhere else. And I just think you're not going to get the best bang for your buck. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
It's funny you say that, because I actually did a mock draft for the Steel Curtain Network where I did take JC Latham, and I did it because that's who I thought the Bengals would take. Right. Not who I would take. But because I was on there, that's the reason why I wanted to do that.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals take JC Latham with pick 18 either.
Yeah, I had Johnny Newton at pick 24. So I traded back in that draft that you were talking about with the Dallas Cowboys. So they gave us 24 and 56 for one. I don't remember. It's for one of our 149 and 18. So then I got Johnny Newton, Troy Franklin, Chris Jenkins, Mikey Sanders still, and then offensive tackle at 97, Blake Fisher was still there.
Right.
Cade Stover at 115, Jawan Briggs, another defensive tackle, Sion Vaki at 214, Eric Watts at 224, and Trevor Keegan at 237. I would take that all day and night.
I would too.
That right now.
I would too. And that's the thing is I think the biggest thing for us Bengals fans, we haven't had the best luck at drafting offensive linemen. Let's just be real with it. So I can kind of see Justin's point, and I can also see your point, Brandon. And I think this draft is going to be different with the top offensive lineman prospects that are on the board. I think we're going to have better luck this year, and it's going to pan out. Whether if they start this year or next year, what's more than likely is going to be next year for us, it makes sense. But we'll say if those guys weren't on the board at the time, then yes, I agree with you 110%, Justin. I would go for, Murphy. I would go for Braden Fisk or Chris Jenkins. I agree with you guys 110%. But our luck has, our right tackle position has been a revolving door. Our tight end position's been a revolving door. So let's see how it pans out tomorrow. It's coming quick.
And to be fair, so is guard. Okay, like guard has been a revolving door too, and we got Alex Kappa coming up off of his contract the next season. And let's say the Bengals do draft the guard, and he does ended up outplaying Alex Kappa or Cordell Volson. Would you be happy with that? Sure. That just adds more fuel. That just adds more bodies to the line. Again, at the end of the day, man, if the talent fits, if it's there, do not be afraid to make the investment in it, even if it's not as popular. I know the Bengals don't have a history of drafting guards early in a draft or whatnot, but the Bengals have not elevated a farm system to where you can come in and what you used to do in college, you can do something different in the pros and be great and successful. The Bengals have not generated that level of success rate, especially on the offensive line. I want to get a guy like, look, if you're a right tackle, all you're doing is coming in and you playing right tackle until we get this right. And then we can start working on some flexibility options to where, hey, if you play guard and center in college, I can just plug you in at center and then make you a guard or whatever the case it may be. Then you can start to explore different experiments. But the Bengals haven't had a great track record for a very long time. And this is going back to the Andrew Whitworth, Marvin Lewis days. I understand that they had top O-lines, but none of those guys are Pro Bowlers with the exception of Andrew Whitworth for real. And even then, it took him a long time to get to a Pro Bowl. But with that being, that was probably because of popularity contest. But with that being said, you just got to just look at especially more specifically in the early rounds. I think we're all in agreement that, look, wherever direction that they go and pick 18, I'm not going to be mad if they go tackle. Don't get me wrong. But I think that if you got other great options on the board that has a chance to make your team that much better, I think you shoot for the stars and go for it, especially if you're going for a championship. You just don't mess it up. We just ask you, just do not mess it up. Like, don't go out there on pick 18 and draft a safety, because that's going to get you punched in the face and riot outside of Paycor Stadium. That's basically all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm using safeties, and I'm picking at of the safety because we signed a whole bunch of safeties in the offseason, it feels like.
A gang of them. An absolute gang of them. All right, Tim, I'm going to flip this last subject over to you. As an overall picture, what do you need to see from the Cincinnati Bengals to consider the 2024 draft a success? What's a successful draft composed of for you?
Believe it or not, after the last couple mock drafts, that we've seen, believe it or not, there's been pretty, if we stayed to our game plan, drafted our needs, and then went for the best available, regardless if it was for this season or for the future seasons, I think that would really set the precedence for the Cincinnati Bengals to have a draft class. With this, like I said, with this draft class, this is one of the best draft classes we've seen in probably a decade. So from pick 100 to, I'll say 150, those are guys that are either going to be starters or going to be in the lineup this year, this 2024 season. So, we just got to make sure that we're not reaching and we're not picking stuff like Justin just said. Why in the hell would we draft a safety in the first round? Make sure we don't do stuff like that. I can see with this draft class and hoping we know what the Bengals are going to do, I believe we're going to have a minus draft, with this draft class. If we actually, honestly think the Bengals are going to do X, Y, and Z, but it's draft day. We never know what's going to actually happen. But hopefully, I know hope is not a strategy, but in my instances, I'm hoping that we follow the game plan, they get our needs, and they get the best available after that, and we have a successful draft and a successful 24 season.
I mean, if the front 6 draft picks all contribute this year,
amen.
Wow. I mean, that's unprecedented kind of stuff right there. That's flying close to the sun. Justin, what do you need to see out of this 2024 draft class from Cincinnati Bengals to consider it a success? What does that got to be compromised of?
So I really need to see the Bengals draft players that's going to be not only just complimentary of the people that's already on the roster, but they can also morph and help them elevate it too. Y'all already heard me talk the speech about Byron Murphy, but I also just want to see an example of that, even at wide receiver in the mid to later rounds, if the opportunity is there. Tight end, we mentioned that as well too. Brock Bowers is probably not going to be there. I'm willing to bet my money on it that Brock Bowers will not be there at pick 18. He's been mocked to the Jets for a while. The Jets have done the top 30 visit, which was pro day and everything. They're in lockstep on ready to draft that kid if he's there for the Jets. And unfortunately, you just got to deal with those kind of things. The Jets also have a need at that position, a slight need at that position, and he's the best value for them. But with that being said, the Bengals can also get the best value for them too, in many different ways. I just need to see their draft prospects, the talent that they get from this draft, to nicely blend in what they have already on the roster, because the Bengals are already a great team. I understand. Again, we know what's going on now, talking through all this episode about Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins and their trade requests or whatnot. But at the end of the day, this Bengals team is still a winning team. They still have a winning mindset to them. It's because of who they have at quarterback that makes it that way. So with that being said, as long as you're adding winners to the file and to the plate, dude, everything else is going to really work itself out. Just don't get too cute, okay? Don't get too smart and think that you can outthink the room and then let somebody else take a prospect that you were trying to send smoke screen signals on, and then somebody else takes him and then they turn them into all-stars, and then the guy that you took ends up being a total bust. Don't do that, okay? Just keep it simple, keep it fresh, be open-minded, and I think you'll have a successful draft. Personally, for me, like I said, I want to see some of their draft picks. We already know all of them is not going to hit, but I want to see some of these draft picks really hone in on elevating the current roster of where it's at to help them become future stars in this league. That's what I want to see. And I know that's kind of a general answer because you can say that about every year when you go into the draft, but I've already gave my specifics about who I would like and what direction I think the Bengals should go to. So that's why I gave that answer.
I said compromised instead of compiled. It's great. Anyway, comprised of. Here's what I think for a successful draft for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think 3 of the first 4 picks need to have some impact this season. Significant impact, I should say. I like Miles Murphy. I expect pretty good things out of him this year. But we can't have our first round draft pick be a defensive player that goes right behind somebody immediately. You know what I mean? It's not going to start. I'm going to give 1 out of the top 100 picks, wherever that might be, wherever you think that fit is correctly, to have your backup right tackle because you've only got a right tackle on for 1 season. I'll give you that. But the 3 of them need to make an impact. I'd like to get 2 more have some fairly decent impact, if not this year, the following year. So 2 more out of that. So I'd like to have 5 guys getting some rotation time at least, if not starting. I'd like to see at least 3 or 4 of them starting and 1 or 2 of them rotational pieces. We got to start hitting on these drafts if we're going to be paying out bags. So I think we see we finally hit on some of these trench guys. We finally hit on some of these guys that we haven't had real good success with in the past few years. I think we'll start seeing less of guys wanting out of town because they're not getting a bag, because now we can give them the bag because we got the rookies that we need on rookie deals and we're not paying everybody else. So that's kind of where I'm at with this being a successful draft. Impact players. you can't waste draft picks.
Amen.
Anybody else? Closing comments before we get out of here.
Draft day is tomorrow. Wherever you guys are going to, post up and watch the draft, whether if you're doing out and about in public with people or just be safe, but also just have fun. We've put a lot of emotional equity into the regular season and into the playoffs, but the offseason is supposed to be just about, what our ideas and how our thoughts is sort of trench line together. And I think we should just all have fun with it. And we know if the Bengals have a bad draft, we're going to feel it and we're going to know. However, the draft is supposed to be just entertaining. It's fun. It's, being happy that you're going to acquire a new player into the NFL on your team and hoping that they make an impact and just hoping that the team just does right by that player at the end of the day. So all the contract talk and all the speculations and all that stuff down the road, man, let that go. Okay. Drafts weekend is a fun weekend. And then after that, we got the schedule release parties and all that stuff. So we're going to be talking about when and where we're going to be playing teams that we know we're going to be facing. So that's all I got as for closing comments. Have fun this weekend. Don't try to press your luck too much and just be open-minded. That's all.
All right. I like it. You can catch me tomorrow night during the draft. If you want to check out the Steel Curtain Network, I'll be over there from picks 11 through 20, talking about the Bengals picks and whatnot. So that'll be fun. Talking a little trash over there, I'm sure. Friday night, as usual, and we do the homies and the homies overtime. We go 8, normally around 9:15 for overtime. We start 8 p.m. Eastern time. That's always a fun one. You can catch that right here. I'll run it through the jungle now. We will be live on there. Come in and make some comments and talk some trash to some Steelers fans. We could use it. Other than that, I want to share my condolences with Duke Tobin. Lost a member of his family, his father, the patriarch. So Bill Tobin, ex-NFL football player, executive, long time in and around the league, passed away last Friday. It was the day after we recorded last week. So it's unfortunate. My deepest condolences, my sympathy. Rest in peace, man.
Definitely.
That will conclude it for us here. We appreciate you guys rocking. Again, thumbs up, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, man. We need all the word we can get out there, especially now that we're doing this live adventure. We can get more people rocking with us on a live show. I appreciate it. Austin's art, we appreciate you more than you know, coming over here and chatting with us and rocking with us. You are the absolute man. We appreciate you more than I can say. So
thank you
very much. But that'll do it for us. Check us out every Wednesday evening, 8:05 p.m. Eastern time. We will be here rocking, bringing your NFL and all of your Cincinnati Bengals news. So join us next week as we are running through the jungle.